Hello and welcome. This is Michelle Christensen of OneNote Worthy Life, and this is a Plan With Me video for February of 2019. I'm using OneNote for Windows 10, and I'm going to walk you through how I evaluate the past month and set up for the new month. Now, I usually do post my Plan With Me videos a few days into the month, but this one's a little later than usual because I got caught up in my own indecisiveness about what to post next. I didn't realize I was struggling with that until after I figured it out, and I wanted to mention that just in case it's helpful to someone else to hear it. So let's get into it. Now, if you're new here, if this is your first time meeting me, I am an avid OneNote fan, and I use OneNote to keep just about everything in my life organized and moving forward. I'm a YouTube creator, blogger at OneNoteWorthyLife.com, and I host the OneNote Bullet Journal Facebook group. As usual for my Plan With Me videos, I've already done this process, and I'm going to walk you through it. The reason I do it this way is so that I can take my time as I think through evaluating the prior month and setting new goals, and also because there's not much to show you in the way of OneNote tips and tricks with this. So I feel like it's a better use of your time for me just to do it first and then walk you through it. So the first thing I do is I review my prior month. So this is, let me just get that on the screen there. This is my January review for my business and blog, which is OneNote Worthy Life. And this is something I did differently in January. Usually I have all these goals just as, uniform bullet points. For January, I separated my goals into personal and work. So I'm actually pretty happy about that. It worked really well to help me have some better separation of personal and work, and it also helped me to see that I had a reasonable number of goals for each of those areas. So my first goal for January was to deactivate 4 of my old email lists. I'm getting really close to done with this. So I've had several different areas that I've been self-employed in, and so I have some email lists of people whose emails I've collected that I'm not really actively sending mail to anymore. So in order to keep kind of my business streamlined and not have things around that I'm not really working with anymore, I'm trying to deactivate these things I'm no longer using. And the provider I use, the email provider, charges by the subscriber, so it makes sense to deactivate lists that I'm not using anymore. So I wanted to do 4. I got to them, and I'm down now to just a handful of additional lists that are very small in number and have some complexities with deactivating them. So I'm going to work on that in February and see where I get to, and for some of them I might just decide to table it until a later date. So my next business goal for February was to categorize all of the transactions for the year in my bank software. And this is something that I don't usually do until it's time to work on our taxes, which usually happens in a month or two. So I am really glad I did this in January. It feels good to be getting a jump on something that I really don't like doing. Like I really don't like doing the taxes. So it feels good to be kind of out ahead of that a little bit. And it also is in keeping with my theme for the year, which is be ready. So by doing this a little bit earlier, I feel a little bit more ready to tackle that when the time comes. I also wanted to change the amount of my monthly transfer. And that was a really small thing, but I didn't get to it in December, so I did it in January, so that feels really good, actually. So next, let's see. I have my personal goals. So one of the first personal goals I set for the month is a calorie goal. I had put on some weight a while ago, and I am on my way back to getting to my healthy body weight. So I like to have an idea of how much I want to try to undereat by each day. And that's a combination of, what I eat and exercise as well. And so for January, I set the goal of negative 250, and I hit that, and it's working really well. I'm very, very happy with just how fast the weight's coming off, so that's great. I'm going to keep that right where it is for February. Another big area that I've been working on is my sleep habits. I had gotten just way out of whack with not doing healthy habits from my sleep and that kind of thing. So I've been trying to pick small areas that I can focus on to improve my quality of sleep. So one of those areas is not using my tablet in bed before I go to sleep. So for a while now, I've had my guideline on this to do it only on Saturday nights and then 2 other days per month. And at this point, I've been doing this for a while, so it's actually pretty easy, but I do like having it there in black and white because it reminds me and it keeps me on track and accountable for it, because it's very easy for me to slip on that. So especially, I think I had slipped a little bit at the end of the year, so in January I wanted to be really clear, have it in black and white, that's what I was going to do. And I did that. Another habit I restarted in January was setting my phone to black and white before bed. And, an hour or two before I go to bed, I have an alarm that goes off on my phone, and I set my phone to only display in black and white. You can probably find this on your phone under the accessibility settings. And what it does is, for me, it makes the phone a lot less tempting. It's really not fun to look at anymore. So I'm not going to be looking at pictures. I'm not going to be watching videos or looking at social media if it's only in black and white. So it makes it a lot easier to put the phone down and stop, procrastinating going to bed if the phone's not really all that interesting. So I got back into doing that. It's working great. I'm going to continue doing that. The other thing I did in January, which was a new experiment, was just to track my wake-up times only. I've been trying different things to get my sleep back on track. And so this was what I decided to try for January, and I actually really like it. I track what time I wake up, and then I set small daily goals. So that's been helping. I feel like I'm improving. I'm getting back to where I want to be, slowly but surely, so I'm going to keep doing that. So my other area for personal goals was under the theme of Be Ready. This is my theme for 2019, and there is a video linked in the description for this video about what that means and how I'm going about it. But what I did was I started with this idea of being more ready for whatever life throws at me. Good, bad, opportunities, that kind of thing. And I brainstormed some areas where I could take action that would help me to feel and be more ready. So one of the very first things I decided to tackle was to get on top of my daily decluttering. I have a practice of doing 15 minutes of decluttering every day, and it's not so much getting rid of old papers or clothes or whatever. I just kind of do that as I go about my day, but it's more about putting things away, finishing that last step on things that maybe I didn't do, and taking care of things that would become clutter if I didn't take care of them now. So I had gotten behind on that habit, and I'm working on getting current on it. So as of January, I was 29 sessions behind, and at the end of January, I was only 26 behind. So this may not seem like a big jump, but it is progress, number one. So I never want to discount progress, even small progress. But it's also kind of like building a new muscle. It's taught me what I need to do to get on top of and stay on top of this habit. And the habit itself serves me really well. When I do it, I love, my environment looks really good. I feel more on top of my life, and I don't get overwhelmed by having to put in 10 hours to do something. It's just little bits at a time, and everything kind of stays put together. So I do feel really good about that. I feel good about how I have set up this habit, or this goal, and the progress I made, and I'm going to try to do even better for February. Along those lines, I have other daily habits I do, like a morning routine and an afternoon routine, and I've also not been very consistent on those. So I want to start to become more consistent on those for the same reasons I just described, that when I do them, life is just much smoother and more enjoyable. And so I was more consistent in January than I was for prior months, and I want to continue to improve that for February. So the final thing that I like to reflect on is what I call what else. In this section, it's just a free-form section for anything that happened during the month that was unexpected. So it could be good or bad, or just anything that changed the way my month went. Well, I started the new year by throwing my back out, and it wasn't anything serious. It's just, if you've ever done that, you know that it's really painful and you can't really move. And that had happened to me in November, and I got onto a really good fitness plan. I had been going to classes really focusing more on flexibility and stability and movement and posture and all that kind of stuff. And I was feeling great. My back was doing really good. But around the end of the year, a lot of the studios that I go to had slowed their schedules down, and I wasn't quite getting enough of what I needed. And that's all it took, as I threw my back out again. So the good news is that I've learned my lesson, and that if I'm ever in that position again where I can't get to the studios where I take classes, that I need to have some stuff I can do at home, which I do have now. So what else? On the 24th, I downloaded a tablet app to use as an alarm clock, and I've only been using it a little bit of time now, but I'm pretty excited about it. It's a pretty neat concept, and if I like it, I will talk about it and maybe do a video review on it. But I'm hoping that will help me get on track with my sleeping. So this was a thought I had, is I want to start reading more. I have so many great books that I have not gotten around to reading, and I used to read a lot more than I do now. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to incorporate that in, but I'm thinking I might have one fiction book and one nonfiction book going at a time, or I might alternate them, because I do like both. So this was interesting for me. In January, around the beginning of the year, and really throughout the month, I was craving paper. I was just seeing all around me all these beautiful images of paper planners and people doing just beautiful like stickers and washi tapes and pens and all that stuff. And when I look at that stuff, it kind of triggers something, because, with a paper planner, you can't put as much as you can or store as much as you can in something digital like OneNote. And so I would look at that, and I think on some sort of unconscious level, I would see someone's life with just like 3 things written down that they had to do for the day. And it would trigger me like, oh, if only I had that planner, my life would be that simple. And it was kind of a desire that I didn't really have before seeing all these mostly advertising messages, but some of it was really well-intentioned stuff from other bloggers or Instagrammers or YouTubers. But I couldn't bring myself to buy anything, partially because I love being free of paper in my planning. Like, I love being able to have OneNote with me and carry it all the time really easily. And I also don't like the thought of just having all that stuff around, the pens and the paper and all that, and then I don't know what to do with it when I'm done with it. So I kind of sat with this throughout the month, and that's where I kind of got clear that what I was wanting was more simplicity in my life. And I was getting the message that, oh, if only I bought this planner or that notebook or that pen, that I would have that. And the truth is, OneNote can be whatever I want it to be. I can make OneNote as simple as I want it to, or as complicated as I want it to. So I don't need to go out and buy paper, which I don't really want, to get that simplicity. And so this was sort of illuminating for me, because I realized that, number one, I already have a tool that will help me create whatever life I want, because it can, OneNote can do whatever I want it to do. But I also wanted to share this because I think as humans, we all like to think that we are not susceptible to advertising messages, but I know, at least in this way, that I am susceptible to them. They created a desire in me to buy paper planners that wasn't there before. And once I kind of got on top of this and really, explored this, I realized that I didn't really want the paper, So I just wanted to mention that as something to think about, because I do think that sometimes we can be susceptible to advertising without knowing it. So the last thing the last thing for January in the what else category is that I feel really good about having those bank transactions categorized, because, again, I kind of really hate anything to deal with taxes. So I usually put it off as long as possible so that I don't have to look at it more than once a year. But now, at least this part of it's done. So that will save me, a couple of hours probably when it comes time to do taxes. So I'm glad I did it. And then the final piece of this is to look at my January portion for my annual plan. And this is what I thought January would look like when I set up my annual plan. And very simple, just a couple of birthdays. And this is deliberate. I do have a video on how I set up my annual plan. And this year I decided to keep it really light, to not slot too much in, because I want to spend more time getting on top of some of these smaller things like habits and tasks and things. And then finally, here is my January calendar all filled in. I don't use this for appointments or anything like that. I use it just to kind of more as a journaling tool, and I like to write down something good or interesting that happened each day. And I just find it fun. I like having this to look back on. It makes me happy. And it also helps, actually, though, provide me with tangible evidence of good things. So I don't do a gratitude journal. I tried that for, gosh, I want to say 3 years, and I literally noticed nothing. Nothing changed. I didn't feel any more grateful. I didn't feel any more happy. I didn't feel any more aware of things to be grateful for. But this, I feel like, has changed me a bit because I am looking for things to add to my calendar. Like now I am forced to come up with something good that happened to fill it in on my calendar. So I think the evidence of that speaks to me more. Like when I write something down, it's proof to me that something good did happen. So that is it for January. Time to move on to the plan for February. So the first thing I start with is the February annual plan. And again, very light. I have an anniversary coming, and I need to think about getting my dogs to the vet. Their registration is due in a couple months, so I want to just kind of start having that in the front of my mind. And then when I do my February goals, I start with January and the commentary I made, and then I move it forward into February. So for my business and blog, One Noteworthy Life, I want to deactivate or at least come to a resolution on those final 5 old email lists. And then this is a new project. I'm working on the About page on my website. There's a link to that page in the description of this video. But what happened was one of my new subscribers sent me a message and said, hey, I noticed that your About page wasn't filled in, and it made them kind of hesitant to subscribe or get involved with my channel in any way. And I thought that was a really valid point. I think I would have done the same thing. I was gone to someone's About page and then seen nothing. So I decided to get this done. And one of the things I want to do is, instead of just kind of a mini bio chronological type page, I want to do 25 bullet points of things that are interesting or unusual or illuminating about me. So I have asked for my subscribers and anyone else that has a suggestion to let me know what you think. What could I include on that page? Like what would be interesting, or what would help you feel more connected to the person behind this channel and this blog. You can leave that in the comments of this video, or I've also set up a survey on SurveyMonkey so you can stay anonymous, and that's linked as well in the comments, the description of this video. So hopefully I will be able to report that that is done at the end of February. The final part is to put in a February calendar. As you can see, I've already started filling this in because I'm filming this a little ways into February. And that's it. I'm all set up for February, and it's actually off to a great start. And I've been doing this process of reflection and planning for a couple of years now, and I feel like the longer I do it, the more valuable it becomes. Hitting these small goals almost every month really adds up to big progress over time. And I've made some really big improvements in areas of my life that are important to me. So if you don't have a practice like this, I would encourage you just to jump in and give it a try. You can start at any time and start as simply as you need to just to get started. You can always expand over time, so don't be afraid to just start with a 5-minute process. So if you have any questions or comments or something you want to see in more detail, please leave a comment on this video, and I will do my best to get back to you. And if you want to see more videos like this, as well as OneNote tutorials, please subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.